Hello, my name is Bryan Cogman, and I had the pleasure of writing this episode.
And I'm Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, and I play Jaime.
My name's Gwendoline Christie, and I play Brienne of Tarth. Nikolaj, I like the way you timed that.
It was right when your name came on screen.
Exactly when his name came up on the screen.
Well, you know, I'll try.
Yeah, you're an old hand at DVD commentary. Oh, here's a new location in our famed credit sequence this year, River Run, that we were able to finally introduce. In the books, River Run appears actually in the first book.
Yeah. It's amazing. Every time I see this, I'm just amazed by this credit sequence. It's just...
When are you going to be able to buy this?
To buy the
Like,
credit
I want
sequence.
it as an actual... I want it as a physical thing that, you know, it's like a clockwork thing, and you turn it on and the theme tune plays.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Like a
and
model.
I'm registering that. Isn't that officially my idea?
I think it is, and we have it.
I saw today in the New York Times, there's a watch coming out now, which is inspired by the opening
Oh, there's a
sequence.
watch with gears that
Yeah,
inspired
something
by this.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not like an actual thing you can put on a table and then turn it on at the end of a dinner party and let the whole
Yeah,
thing
you want
play.
you want like a
You want
train
that
set.
thing.
You
Yeah.
want like a
Yeah, and I want like
full-
a button. It's a
Yeah.
dining room table. It seats 12, and at the end of the party, when everything's cleared away, you
It
press
all
a button, it
comes up.
turns over, and it all starts.
Well, yes. I
Brian,
think,
make it happen.
oh yeah, I have a lot of power, as you can see.
Bryan
from
Cogman.
my name in the center, and Alex Graves,
Alex
who's
Graves.
astonishing and amazing director.
Yeah.
Here's Paul Kaye as Tharos Mir, one of our more wonderful casting coups this year.
He's amazing.
Shows the truth.
This was fun. We thought we'd sort of turn the conventional thing on its head for this episode and lead off with the big climactic fight scene, which you're going to see here in a few moments.
I remember being in Belfast when they shot this sequence, and every 20 minutes the actors and crew would come out of the stage just coughing
Oh,
and
it was
being
miserable.
sweaty.
It was miserable.
It
yeah,
was
you saw. Well, did you
such
see
a
us?
Wasn't it
tough.
really wet? Everyone said they were really wet.
They were wet and roasting, and you know.
Why were they all so wet, though?
Well, they were sweaty from the fight.
They
Probably.
were sweaty. They weren't.
There's also some condensation, I think, in the cave that they and puddles and things. But the
Yeah, but that's great. I mean, it sort of felt like a real...
It's an amazing fight sequence, and it's one of the best in this show, I think.
It was.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they really wanted to pull all the stops out with this, and we shot it, I think, about over a week. And as you said, it was so hot and roasting on that soundstage that we were blowing our noses and there was soot coming out. And I was in the comfort of monitors outside of the cave set, and these guys are in full armor.
I'm so jealous that his sword's on fire.
Yeah, it gives you an advantage, especially when your opponent is not fond of fire.
That has issues with fire.
Yeah,
I'd like a sword on fire.
we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can
Could
do.
I
for
have
you
a
there.
sword on fire?
I can't make those decisions, unfortunately, but. And these, with the exception of a few shots, this fight is all Richard Dormer and Rory McCann. They really went for it and worked their asses off.
Yeah.
I watched them in rehearsal when I was training for the sword fight with Nikolaj that we do in episode 2.
Yeah.
And they were really going for it. And Rory initially was quite sort of nervous because it's so complex, but he absolutely smashes it in this
It's
scene.
great, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
He's got such intention through every movement.
He's incredible. And what's cool and what's fun about it, and this was something that we were conscious of when scripting it and of course when it was choreographed and shot, is that they have two very distinct fighting styles.
Yeah.
Sort of brute force with the Hound
Yeah.
and kind of a grace and ease that
Yeah.
Barrick
Hours.
has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also important to remember that, Richard's fighting with a real sword that's on fire and
Yeah,
one
yeah.
eye covered.
Yeah.
Which is
It's
actually really
amazing.
difficult.
Yeah.
Because
Believe it or not, that's not.
no, but the thing is, just try to reach a
Oh,
cup
here it
when you-
comes.
Oh, here we go.
That's. He did.
You would think so, right?
They're like, oh, we didn't think that would happen.
Lord, cast your light upon this man, your servant. Bring him back from death and darkness. His flame has been extinguished.
The Lord of Light has a large role in this episode and really in this season. The the fire god is a huge part of it. What's also fun about Rory as the Hound is he's very clearly a main character in the book right away, but he sort of sneaks up on you as a main character in the TV series, the way we adapted him. And there he is, alive.
That's crazy.
And now we're in Iceland. There's Kit doing his best to
walk. How Bryan from a production? I mean, because Kit broke his ankle early on in the summer, so you had to. How crazy was it to reschedule that year?
Well, not to make Kit feel any worse than he probably already does, but yeah, it was.
That's an extraordinary thing to bring
It was,
up, Nikolaj,
he hurt himself pretty badly, and so we.
No,
had,
but it is. It's
it is
because they
interesting.
pulled it up, and also because it's such a huge show that.
It is. And
I'm
it was
just
a very,
amazed every time we go to work, and Chris Newman, all these guys, how they managed to get it all.
Oh yeah, I mean it's
working.
astonishing. It's if you look at Chris Newman's wall, his spreadsheet of the schedule is a thing of beauty. Yeah, we had to push most of Kit's stuff back to the end of the shoot, so that he had time to heal. It's a very physical season for Kit, probably his most physical.
Yeah.
So we just had.
He's holding wood in this scene.
He is, and it's not easy. and to have that smoldery, that requires a lot of. That smoldering sexiness is.
I know.
You need both ankles to be in tip-top shape. Oh, see.
He's put the wood down.
Here we have, of course, Mackenzie Crook as Orel. Great actor.
Amazing, piercing eyes as well.
Yeah, and
He's really transformative as an actor as well, because of course in Britain we know him from The Office, and he was very much one type, a particular archetype, and he's really turned on his head in this. He's an actor of brilliant range.
Absolutely, he's very still in this role, and really, a lesser actor would kind of play the sniveling villain character, and he's very understated and all the more scary for it.
Yeah.
It was a real treat to have him be in the cast. I saw him also. Did you see Jerusalem? The play
No,
that
I
Mark
didn't. I
Rylance
heard he was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, he's astonishing.
As was
in it.
Mark Rylance. Yeah,
Of course. Yeah. Rose Leslie as Ygritte.
Bryan, do you ever get to get a copy of the costumes for you to wear at home?
Do I?
Yeah.
No.
Because I think that they might do that for you if you asked.
Well,
and
you
I
know,
can see you in one of these.
I try. I've been trying to get on this show for years, but no one. They keep me locked up in a
Why
room.
don't you just
typing.
write yourself in?
Oh, I've tried.
Bryan, just write yourself. Have you really?
I've tried.
Have you?
When we get to a certain scene later, I'll tell the story because it applies to that scene.
Oh my God! Well, is it the?
No, because now we have.
Just focus here.
Yeah, let's not. The people at home don't want to hear about me when they're watching this scene.
I think they did. Well, no, they don't. Well,
now this was fun to write in that it's a really beautiful consensual love scene in a show that doesn't have that many. So. And also a scene where the man is there for his lady, if you will. So that was a nice change of pace. And these two, of course, have incredible chemistry.
Yeah.
I mean, they're no Gwendoline, Christie, and Nikolaj Coster-Waldau in terms of chemistry, but
No, they really.
well, no, they actually like each other.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
And not to ruin the magic, but this is actually the same cave set that Beric was just fighting in, redressed.
And is it true that because of Kit's injury, in the shot in a few seconds when they jump into the
Yes, this was confirmed by Kit, so I feel
so
okay.
that's why
Yes, it is not. You're not seeing Kit Harington's ass, unfortunately, ladies.
Is
You're
that?
seeing-
Oh no.
Yeah, he would have been game. It was just,
Yeah.
he just couldn't jump.
Yeah, he was just not able to scurry into the hot tub. We shot this scene fairly. It was one of the first ones he shot, so he was still, having a little trouble. Thankfully, with clever directing, editing, and acting, you can't tell.
No one else. Only you.
But this is a wonderful relationship that, you know, we actually emphasized Ygritte's role in the adaptation in season 2, and it really with the idea of kind of building to this moment, and then the moment in episode 6 where they're climbing the wall. And but it's the kind of thing that fails if you don't have two actors with the, you know, you need that kind of chemistry, and thankfully they have.
They're brilliant. They're really good.
He was weak. Not like you.
And of course, the title of the episode, Kissed by Fire, just came from one of those lines I was just talking over.
He was built like a man.
Oh, yeah.
And fire ends up being a big...
It's a red-haired woman, isn't it?
A red-haired woman is kissed by fire. And coincidentally, there's a lot of fire imagery in the episode otherwise. So it seemed a good title for the installment.
It's so beautiful, this setting. This whole scene is really just
How long's
gorgeous.
it been since you had a
Yes, and Annette, who our cinematographer, just gorgeous lighting of this episode. There we go. That was not Kit.
Oh, I didn't look at it. I didn't look at his ass.
I mean, it's only a split second, to be fair. Yeah.
It's only a second.
Let's not
And this is the first of 2 notable hot tub scenes.
Let's stay here a while.
I like it being referred to
Somehow,
as a hot tub.
I got the hot
What
tub
about
episode.
jacuzzi?
Jacuzzi.
Jacuzzi episode. Yeah.
Sure, the jacuzzi
The
episode.
the jacuzzi episode.
I get jacuzzi episodes and episodes where Finn Jones makes out with a guy. That's both of my episodes.
Well, you are lucky.
Well, you know, I mean, you want to. This is the kind of thing you dream of as a young writer.
That was beautiful as well, actually.
What was beautiful?
There we go.
Oh, here we go.
No.
Is on that.
The brilliant Phil McKinley.
Yeah, he's terrific. He's terrific.
He is.
The-
I did my first ever job with him at the RSC.
Did you really?
I did indeed.
What play?
It was Great Expectations, directed and adapted by Declan Donlan, and it was a complex piece of work.
Oh, and they put the hood on. Just so you know, don't know how to get back.
Yeah.
Ah, here we go. Here's what the people have been waiting to
Oh,
see.
Noah Taylor! Absolutely love him.
Yeah, Noah Taylor. Oh, what a thrill to get
He's
him.
so good.
Outstanding
On this show.
job he did.
I'm a huge fan of his for years.
There's Boris Johnson on a horse.
I'll let you two talk about this.
I liked it when that happened.
As much as we can get Nikolaj in the mud, we do.
Face down.
How many hours would you say you spent in mud this season, Nikolaj?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
But it was great, though.
Yeah.
It's actually one of those things where I think it's just easier when you have like obstacles, and the elements are always a great obstacle.
Yeah, you wouldn't be dried off. I mean, you went with it totally. You weren't being prissy about it at all,
No,
which was impressive and surprising.
he's good, by the way. Bruce Bolton
Michael McNamara.
Oh,
yeah.
he's great.
is
Eyes like lasers.
Another character from the book that we sort of reconceived in terms of when we were going to reveal his villainy. We have the character kind of sneak up on the audience a little more, and I think it's most effective in the episode 309. I'm assuming anyone watching this commentary has already seen the whole season, so
yeah,
I'm not spoiling anything. But I love this moment.
How can I put this?
yeah. He's a psychopath.
The love of his life he thinks is dead.
Sir Jaime isn't well.
Jaime isn't well. He's good. He's so good.
This was really the season that, I mean, we know Nikolaj when you were first talking about being cast. I remember I had to write up a document about Jaime's arc over the course of 4 seasons to give to you, to sort of assure you that by season 3 you'd have a lot more to do than the first 2.
No, but it's true. It was this episode was like it's one of those things where you start out on a show and you know. I've never experienced a build up like this to have more than 3 years to get ready for a scene, which is of course a scene in the bathtub. It was quite something. He's also. Everyone's really good. I mean, Nina Gold. We can only say it so many times, but she is just an amazing casting director.
Oh, yeah,
the way
absolutely.
she finds actors that just are perfect.
Anton Lesser.
Can I also say your wound just looked really good as well?
Well, yeah.
It looked real. Really real and
You were really a
separating.
good sport, Nikolaj, when we cut your hand off. It was you
Well,
you
his
are a
method.
true committed.
And he'd rather
actor.
the hand came off.
It's just easier.
And
It's just
and now
easier.
you have do you have a stunt hand that you use, or do you just go full stump? Or
Full stump.
okay,
Anton, he came in for the original pilot and read for Maester Lewin, actually,
really?
and we loved him, but we just judged him a little too young for it, and Donald, of course, was our ultimate choice. But we knew we wanted to bring him back, and when this role came up, it was, we said, oh, let's get Anton Lesser back. I think when I was watching this with friends, this moment got the biggest heebie-jeebies squeal from the people watching.
Yeah,
Here we have-
I had a couple of people ask me, well, why didn't he just take the milk of the puppy? I was like, but he doesn't trust that guy.
Yeah.
It seems pretty obvious.
no.
believe that House Tyrell do not hold the crown's best interest.
But also, it's a kind of his new power, isn't it? It's his strength of will, as opposed to he's always relied on his physical sense. So
Yeah.
this is his foray into a new strength.
Yeah, and there was also there was a line in there that we ended up cutting, but that sort of explained it a little bit, where that he's afraid that if he gets drugged and is out, that the guy will just take his arm.
Oh yeah, that is cut.
That he's trying to
yeah.
trick him.
Yeah, well, that's what that's what we played anyway.
Yeah.
God's boy, that's enough.
Now this is one of the joys of my life as a writer, watching Dame Diana Rigg speaking words
Yeah.
That
I wrote. Come on.
Superb. She
Yeah.
is. She has exactly the same kind of ability as Maggie Smith, in that she's able to take a line and twist it into a million different implications. It's
Absolutely.
absolutely glorious what she does.
Shaping up to be a very involved affair. The word extravagant has been used.
What good is the word?
Yeah, she's really incredible. And when we were thinking about Lady Olenna, the idea behind our version of her is that in a few years, this will be where Marjorie Tyrell is. And a few years ago, Olenna was Marjorie. So, and we have the student and the master, and it was really amazing that we got her to play this part.
What is it? 12,000 infantrymen the Tyrell family has supplied. 1,800 months.
It was always really exciting to me to imagine what this scene would be like with Peter and Dame Diana Rigg, because that match of quick-brained, quick-wittedness, it's beautiful and magical and exciting to watch.
And of course, she takes him apart, and it's, the only one who
interesting
really...
is because Peter's, sometimes we forget to mention how good he is because it seems obvious now, but he is brilliant. But it's also been interesting this season, I think, to see how Tyrion is kind of going up against people that kind of outpace him or outsmart him, like
Absolutely.
Lady Olenna and of course his dad, where he seems so powerless, and it's interesting.
No, it is. He's marginalized this season, and if season 2 was about his ascension, and this season is really about him just trying to figure out what his place is now, and getting really beaten down.
And making wrong choices, you could argue, right? Which is interesting. Like, why didn't he just take off with Shay? Why is he still there? It's like, but he's got the taste for the game. That's the thing, isn't it?
He does, and despite everything that happens to him, he still has this loyalty to his family and his house. Yeah. And it's sort of this season sort of represents Tyrion's life before the show. I mean, in the first season, he's sort of away from his family and he's off on his own adventures. In the second season, he's in charge, and this season really shows in many ways what his life was like for all those years leading up to the first season, and how he's treated.
Have you lost your mind?
There's a term that I learned about being a writer on the show and being involved in this kind of genre called shipping, where fans want certain characters to get together in a romantic way, and Gendry and Arya are certainly two that.
Yeah.
That there are a lot of Gendry and Arya shippers who had a lot to say about this scene.
I served Master Mott at King's Landing, and he sold me to the Watch.
And I think she does love him. I think Maisie played it that way, even if she's not consciously aware of it. I think.
I'm done serving.
You just said you were serving Lord Beric.
It's one of the great things about writing this kind of story and getting to have these characters and getting to explore them over the course of so many episodes is, you really.
Family.
You can come to a moment like this and you will have really earned it.
Yeah.
I can be your family.
No. They are.
Yes, indeed.
And the writing.
Dude, and these two guys were quite good too, in their tiny little little roles. Martin and Willem Lannister.
Oh yeah.
Now, you know, it wouldn't be an episode of Game of Thrones if we didn't kill a couple of children, so, you know, this one really does have everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and woo!
And scene.
He was one angry guy.
John Stahl, another actor who came
Yeah.
in for the pilot, for, I believe, reading for,
Oh, really?
for Roderick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so fun about this show. There's so many characters that if you don't get on the first time, you probably will again, because there's, you know,
Don't despair. There's
don't
always
despair. We'll see you in season 6.
Yeah, he was really frightening with the sword. In fact, really frightening with the sword in series 2. When
he's kicking you
Why
around.
Why is
Yeah.
it that the King Rob has that? I mean, why that much cleavage? I have to.
Well, I think the idea is they just got out of bed.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's the idea.
they've been roused early in the morning. And
Yeah,
they're
but
sort of
also
in
just
there.
look at him. Why not that much?
Yeah,
cleavage?
wouldn't you want to?
Why not? You know, if there wasn't that much cleavage, I'd be
Yeah.
asking why wasn't there more cleavage?
Seriously, look
It
at that
seems
glorious,
perfectly visually justifiable to me.
glorious Scottish
Maybe you don't feel you
chest
get
there.
enough cleavage exposure. Do you feel like you don't get enough screen time for your cleavage? Is that, maybe you could ask that, you know, if in future you could possibly get more screen time.
It's
for
just
your
a question.
cleavage.
It's the King of the North, and I'm just thinking, why would he be that?
But
dressed
actually,
like
it's
that,
a
to
good
be honest?
question.
If you wouldn't imagine, if you went to see the President of the United States, that he would be standing with like his shirt open, and that's just I think it's a valid point, to be honest.
But here's the thing. Rob doesn't preen around like, I'm the king. I'm going to dress like, you know.
Yeah.
Rob's a man, and he
Yeah.
just got out of bed, and he's not going to get all prettied up for this.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, you
Oh,
put.
hey,
you
wait,
put
wait, guys, Brian, this is ridiculous. There's 2 dead bodies lying. It's not like he just got out of bed and there's like, oh, who left these kids here?
Well, wait, he's gonna
Fair enough,
get.
and I understand why you would want to show it, but it's,
I
it's
just
still,
think someone has got
I think you've got
overwhelming
some-
cleavage
yeah,
envy
this
and some really mad issues at work.
Okay, all right.
This is something that's
It's
lived with you for a
great.
while.
Here's the thing, Gwen. I mean, he first met Richard. Richard was a young man, a boy in the pilot.
Yeah.
And he's growing up, and it's
Yeah.
hard for him to, you know.
It is.
let
It
go.
is. He feels
Well,
usurped, and yeah.
There's Tobias Menzies as
a
Admiral
lot of
Tully.
cleavage as well. It's maybe it's like
They
a
just
theme.
got out of bed.
Is it a cleavage off?
got out of
It
bed.
is. It's a cleavage
They
off.
threw on some clothes and went to go, you know.
I'm not fighting.
But I love the fact that the King of the North still has a bathrobe in his tent.
He's not in a tent. He's at a castle. They're at River Run. He's not oh, you mean later on? That's a good point.
Forgive the killing of them. Your mother's right.
Meanwhile, what's going on plot-wise? What's happening here?
People who watch this commentary, they know what happened to these guys. So it's actually.
Oh yeah,
I'm just being
They're all
glib about
dead.
this. It's
Yeah.
kind of sad, and it's weird that we never gonna meet them on set in Belfast. Michelle and
It really
Richard.
is. It was,
they've been so good.
Yeah.
and that. And I mean,
I'm
we're
really
not
obsessed
talking
about
about
it.
episode 9, but when we shot that scene over the week in episode 9, it was a very
can't
eerie,
imagine.
sad time.
Yeah, it must have been.
And yeah, you know, they're in the Starks, you know, the soul, at least for the first part of the story, the sort of the soul of the show, and
Yeah.
they're getting picked off one by one. This is one of the few times we made it rain on purpose. This is actually a rain bird.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, this is one of the few times we wrote rain into the scene and it didn't rain, so
You know?
so and also meant to kind of echo the opening.
But I love the fact that he's exactly
pilot.
the opening of
Yeah.
the pilot, and he where Ned Stark executes the kid, and what happens to Ned Stark is kind of it's so ominous.
And it's this was a little bit of a change that I implemented that proved a bit controversial with some of the purists in the book. When he beheads Karstark, it's kind of similar to how Theon beheads the guy, where he doesn't
can't
quite
do it.
finish it.
And then
And it was felt that you know, for the purposes of the show, we'd seen that already.
Yeah,
And B, we kind of wanted him to be more Ned in this moment.
it's great. No, it's really
You know,
good.
and you see that little hand tremor that was introduced in the 8th episode
And
of
can
season
I just
1.
say, the way Alex shot it, it's so cool.
Oh,
the
I
way
mean-
he goes into handheld just on the hand, it's so...
Yeah, I can't say
Brilliant.
enough about Alex Graves. He really...
Absolutely, yeah. He's
I mean-
so brilliant and forensic about details. It has the most glorious visual artistry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are so spoilt on this show with the directors that we do work with. He is magnificent.
It's true. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like it's like going to grad school for me, just sitting there on set and watching them work. And someone like Alex, he and Annette, she's amazing, and they have an incredible shorthand. They've worked with each other for years, and so I think the look of this episode and 304, they're two of the best looking episodes of our series.
They really are beautiful.
And painterly, and Alex also really cares about story and really cares about he sees the whole thing. So it's if there's a story point planted in this episode, he wants to know where it's going to pay off, even if it's in an episode he's not directing, which is hugely important for this show because it really is one long story. Maisie does wonderful work in this scene.
Yeah.
Toros, how many times have you brought me back?
I mean, you remember Nikolaj? They were little kids when we.
I know. That's every time we come back and you meet them, you kind of go, "What happened?"
Yeah. Well, for one thing, Isaac's taller than me. I mean,
Isaac is he's a young man now.
Now it's not that hard to be taller than me, but that said,
no, cleavage.
This is a story point, Nikolaj. We're looking at his wounds.
Yeah, I know. But don't.
Good
might
Lord, man.
we possibly get to see your cleavage soon?
I was going to say we're going to see quite a lot of you here in just a
quite a
minute.
lot of
Story
you.
point. Story point.
Fuckers couldn't decide. And the hell makes 6?
I think are you requesting further scenes?
I was going to say we can make this happen for you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to be shirtless,
Bryan, darling, I really
No.
think you should because
I don't
Nikolaj is
want to be
clearly
shirtless.
keening for
Yeah,
it. He desperately wants to be shirtless in most, if not all, scenes.
Pieces of you get chipped away.
We just leave that.
What's it? I say here where she asks about Ned.
Yeah.
I realized as I was watching this season, I think Ned Stark is probably mentioned at least once in every episode.
Every episode,
and he really does loom over the whole story. It's an amazing thing, and it's not even something that's intentional. It just happens because it's right. He's
Was
sort
it
of,
this season when he came back? Why they used it? Was it the big?
we used his
opening
voice?
episode?
Yeah, and Bran had a dream that echoed
the dream
that echoed the first scene of
Yeah.
of the Starks being introduced in the first episode. And yes, there's that little tear, and she has grown into such an. I mean, she always was great, but to watch these kids really learn.
They're so
The
skilled,
craft.
aren't
The craft
they?
of
So
acting.
skilled.
Now here we have Tara Fitzgerald.
I am captivated by
Yeah.
her, and this character really stands out for me.
Yeah, this was Selyse is interesting. She's a bit different in our version than in the books. We cut her from season 2 to sort of just make the Melisandre Davos Stannis triangle stand out. Where in the book she's a little more involved. Well, she's involved politically in the arguments that Melisandre is also making. So we made a bit of a change there. But her fierce devotion to the Lord of Light is a huge part of her in the book and on the show as well.
Lady Melisandre's told me everything.
Yes, of course.
And, Stephen Delane, of course, as Stannis, he was a challenging character for the show as well. He's not a POV character in the book. He's largely seen through the eyes of Davos. And so it was our challenge to sort of show those behind closed doors character arcs. And the decision was made for this season that he's reeling from the Battle of the Blackwater, and he has, in that defeat, clung to Melisandre in a huge way. And when we made the change that Melisandre leaves Dragonstone, he sort of goes through a kind of withdrawal, as if he's, weaning himself off a drug. And in that withdrawal, he's seeking out the family that he doesn't see that much, and going through sort of a 12-step kind of thing. And he's confessing his infidelity here to Selyse.
The Red Woman. The Lady Melisandre.
I know, Stannis.
Who, of course, knows.
I know, Stanley.
No act done in service of the Lord of Light can ever be a sin. When
That's a big thing to have to deal with when you've confessed your infidelity and the
It's even
Your wife's okay with it.
Yeah, no, but but the
More
way,
than okay
the
with it.
way
More than
that
okay
she's
with it.
Okay with it.
Yeah,
That's the
fervently
scary.
okay
It's
with
like really,
And here's an element of the scene that it was pretty controversial. I'll take full responsibility because I thought of it, and it's these babies, her dead boys. And it's funny because in my mind, what made me think of it is I read a story about a woman who was grieving a stillborn child who had the child's hands encased in bronze and put on their mantle. And that was what this was.
This is not. It's a true story I know from beginning of the century where explorers came to Greenland and took these people back to show off and then this brother who lost his kid brother to this thing, he came to New York years later and found his younger brother in a jar.
Ooh.
So
God.
it happens. It
happens.
happened.
Perhaps it didn't happen in medieval times, but are we really going for?
It's not medieval. It's Westeros.
I loved
It's Westeros, that's what I said.
Yeah, exactly. But I loved it when the shot turned around.
But the only
and you
thing
saw
I
it. It was
think
so
is like
shocking.
the middle kid is pretty big.
He's pretty big. He got. That's a good point. He was a large stillborn.
That's
I mean, how old?
like
Wait
was
a
that?
minute.
that's a 20-pounder there.
But anyway, those of you that hated it, blame me. I thought of it.
Did
And here's
people hate
Carrie.
it? Surely they didn't hate it.
Oh yeah. Oh, people. A lot of
Well,
people hated it. The
people
babies.
What? Because they felt it was in bad taste, or because it wasn't true to the book?
That, and also they thought it pushed Selyse into a crazier mode than maybe they were comfortable with. Again, I don't really see it as crazy. I see it as grief. Huge grief. But we can debate that another time. Meanwhile, here's his daughter who suffered from grayscale as a child, terrible disease, and has been scarred for life from it.
And the reason why is it that they keep her locked up?
Well,
Because of her face.
yeah, I
Why?
mean, she's not locked up in that she has free reign of the castle. It's just that she's not trotted out at.
Okay, so she can walk
official
around.
function.
I just
Yeah,
thought she was only
it's not
allowed in her room.
No, I don't think it's that so much, but she's definitely doesn't have many friends, doesn't, have many activities. Again, that's a bit of a change from the book. Selyse and Shireen are more reclusive in our story. That was a practical decision in the second season because we hadn't cast them.
That makes sense.
So, it's one of those things where those sort of practical things kind of dictate how the story is adapted, and
Would her skin condition indicate a perceived weakness? Is that why
yes, I mean, much like
she's shielded away?
Yeah, much like Tyrion's dwarfism.
Exactly,
I mean, she's
exactly.
considered. They didn't have any sons, and now they have this daughter, and she's disfigured. Here we
I
go.
can't believe you just did that.
This is
and
the
there's
scene.
Now,
It's funny, it's a big
now
scene,
There's
and one of the
cleavage
things-
moment coming up.
Yes, Alex Graves, I have to say again, was just amazing. Because of the nature of this show, it's very, very rare that we have time to rehearse or to go to the location before. Here, he went out of his way to make sure that we could meet at this location while they were still building it and really talk about the scene. This one suits me fine. And also all these, because as you see, we're naked, more or less.
Are you talking over this so we don't focus on the fact that we're seeing her ass?
Yes, and what was so about it, because all these things that you don't want to think about on the day, the stuff like how much are we gonna show of my ass or my breasts, as it was, or whatever. All these things we had to talk about because you don't want to spend time on the day. So he was just really, he was just such a. It really felt like all of us, including the whole crew, we did it together, and it was.
It also meant that we could just focus on the acting. So things like my ass, I didn't worry about.
Yeah, he was very conscious of making you two feel very safe.
Exactly.
And
but also, and also the whole crew. We just have the best crew. I mean, I think we were allowed to do full takes. We did the whole scene in one go every time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that means once we have one setup, you start. That's like you're looking at an hour.
No, it's a long
of concentration just to get that one. And we did that, and that's really tough on everyone. The camera operators, everyone, because it just, it's tough. But it really helped. I think it helped us. And then, of course, we have to mention the wonderful acting by Gwen. She kind of gives the whole scene the emotional. It helps. I think your performance guides the audience to understand the emotional implications of what Jaime actually is saying.
I love to watch people burn.
Yes.
With their skin blackened, blistered, and melted off their bones.
And then I love the fact that Alex also, the way, he uses the fire and the steam. I mean, obviously the water wasn't that hot, so we had all these steam things coming up behind us. And it's just, It's a scene when on paper you worry that, it's because the metaphor is so big, the rebirth and all that it would be too,
but it wasn't heavy-handed
No,
at all.
exactly.
And it was strangely, incredibly easy that day to find. The emotional connection didn't have to be tried for because it was just the telling of the story and the, exactly as you say, the metaphor of it is just very moving.
The day of reckoning.
Yeah. And then, of course, the writing, Bryan, we have to talk about the amazing scene that you wrote. It was just from the first script I got, and then there were some changes that where we tried to get some stuff.
I remember you came up to me and said, wait a minute, I like that line.
And then that was the beauty of doing full takes, because and also I think they were a little scared of me that day, so I was allowed to do it.
You were terrifying that day, though.
No,
as we have discussed before, you were clearly on edge that day. You screamed at me that day. You brought me to heel because I was having some light chit-chat with
it wasn't a light day.
No, it was a very intense day. I mean, it was a long day. We went over by several hours, and there's a huge component to the scene is how vulnerable these two are. They're at their most vulnerable state, and you two were as actors, and you used it as good actors do to feed the scene.
Yeah.
And yes, this was my favorite passage in the book, so I was very excited to get to adapt it and couldn't have been more. I mean, it was my happiest day as a writer on this show was when we wrapped this day after watching you two work on it for all those hours.
Oh, that's great.
He told me to bring him my father's head. Then he...
One thing I've been asked from some people, because you made some changes from the book that I applaud, because I think there was that in the book. There is a part where Jaime gets a little aroused because of the situation, and I always I felt that was so.
That would have been hard to achieve,
Yeah, but also
I think on screen
it doesn't make sense. He's barely alive, and it's not what this scene is about. And
I mean, it would have. I think it would have visually that wouldn't have gone over the right way. You know what I mean? Like people, it would have taken a viewer out of it for all the wrong reasons.
But also, I don't understand. I'm so basically, I'm just saying that whole aspect of it.
I don't think that. I mean, I'm pleased that wasn't in there because I think the purity of this needs to be upheld, and I think that it aided that. But I think that just makes him more of a sort of just an animal in that moment, doesn't it? And so the story that we hear is at odds with that. But
I
however,
certainly didn't dislike it in the book. It made sense.
It would
to
have.
me.
I think in the show it would have. It would have cheapened it.
Yeah.
But also the connection they have is very deep. I think for Jaime, he's never had a connection with another person as he has with Brienne.
No, I don't know, and I don't think he's told this story to anyone.
No,
he hasn't told this to Cersei. He hasn't told this to Tyrion.
And it's not like he's suddenly going to go from now and he's going to bring this up at every dinner. It's not. This is a unique thing.
And what I love about this moment, The Wolf and the Lion, is this brings everything full circle. This is their he and Ned's first encounter in the first episode of the show. And that's what I love about this season is so many of those huge arcs that began at the beginning of season 1 are paid off in this season, whether it's this or Micah and the Hound and Arya, and it's really exciting to be able to trace that stuff.
Yeah.
The wolf judged the lion. But what right?
The Kingslayer!
And this is just a beautiful moment, a beautiful shot.
It was set up so beautifully. It's using iconic imagery.
You really toned, huh, Bryan? You worked out.
I worked out a lot. You also, just after they called cut, you said, "Take your hand off my ass."
But no, bravo to both of you. That really was, that's
bravo to you. Sure,
it was a real pleasure.
Let's all congratulate ourselves on this DVD commentary for an amazing scene in television.
Oh, yeah.
Now remember I was going to tell you about when I tried to get myself on the show. In the book, a maester teaches Davos to read. This guy, Maester Pylos.
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm writing, I'm mapping out this arc as we're in the writer's room, and I'm like, aha, that's it. Maester Pylos, that'll be my role. I can play a maester. And I get in the room, of course, and pitch the idea, and the guys quite rightly said, but wouldn't it be more powerful if Shireen teaches him to read? And I had to, the producer
said no.
and
You just said
no.
yes.
Sadly, the writer and producer and me went, oh.
But of course, the actor and you went, I could do Shireen.
Right. I can be a little girl, right? Just try me out. But I love this scene, and it's one of the few scenes in the show that's about kindness and generosity and empathy, and it's a lovely scene.
At the beginning.
Isn't it also interesting? There is a lot of these characters that have had like suffered seem to have more kindness towards other people. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, these are two characters that are on the, again, like on the margins, and they find each other, and I love that scene. And Liam Cunningham is just, again, someone who
is an exemplary, beautiful actor.
He
and I
is.
first became aware of his work in the Steve McQueen film Hunger, and
Yes.
he
Yeah,
continues to move onwards and upwards from that glorious one-take scene that he did in that, and he brings a tender resonance to all of his work.
Yeah, I agree. And Davos is a role that has comparatively less screen time than other major roles, and is often an observer. And so
Yeah,
you
it's
really
very powerful, though.
You need an actor who can really convey a lot without having a lot of words. And all this stuff, this is all beautiful. These are all beautiful scenes that I did not write. I actually all the Esso scenes
From
in this-
episode.
Yeah, the guys wrote them originally for episode 6, and they were moved in pre-production into this script. So Alex did direct them for episode 5, but I didn't write any of them. But they're still pretty good.
I like the fact what I like about this scene is that it's such a male thing to do. It's like they both suddenly want to lay claim on what to do next. It's like
Yeah,
it's
and
a male
on her,
thing, even though she's clearly the queen.
Yeah,
they
male
kind
assertion.
of they seem to be like, oh well, I'm actually the one who is closest to her. I should. It's interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of this season is about Dany sort of letting them know that this is her story,
Exactly.
and Jorah has protected her and guided her. Barristan certainly came with the idea that, okay, I'm going to help this girl do what she needs, and of course they do help, but this is her. She's running the show this year, in no uncertain terms.
And her mastery of that language is unbelievable.
I was just thinking that.
High Valyrian and Low Valyrian and all the Valyrians created by David Peterson this year for us.
Yeah, he did an amazing job, but also just for her to, it's so...
And Jacob Anderson, who plays Grey Worm, also a quick study, and Natalie Emmanuel.
Yeah.
I love the Dany cast this season. These new characters, really, Dany is a very tricky character to write because it's in many ways her own separate TV series.
Yeah.
And so it's tricky to know. It's tricky to, where to place the scenes and how to develop the arcs in tandem with the other arcs. But I think this season she really comes front and center.
Yeah.
Season 2 in Karth was a frustrating season to watch, but it was that on purpose. She's failing and messing up and screaming about her dragons and coming off as a begging little girl, which was absolutely the point.
Yeah.
Because that was the season where she learned that you don't beg and whine for what you want. And so this season this season really couldn't happen if you didn't have that season where she struggled and failed.
I think that's why investment in this show is so worthwhile. The payoff as each series unfolds is greater and greater.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an interesting scene too. In the books, Sir Barristan has come in disguise. They don't know that he is Barristan Selmy at this point in the story. And we changed that mainly because the audience would know, and we didn't want a year and a half or more of the audience being ahead of Dany. So as a result, you have this scene where Jorah is kind of trying to feel out what Barristan knows about him. In the book, Barristan knows that Jorah was a traitor. In the show, he doesn't. So it kind of changes up how that whole plot line is going to play out. And yeah, here is another. This is where they really are like, I'm her best advisor.
That's
No, I'm her
I
best
thought of.
advisor.
Into slavery. I don't know if your presence by her side will help our cause.
And these, of course, the pair of
our
Ians, Ian
cause.
Glenn and Ian McElhenney.
Forgive me, Sir Barristan, but I was busy defending the Khaleesi against King Robert's.
I wonder where Jorah got that new armor.
It's I was just thinking that.
Suppose he had it made
beautiful.
in-
All of that carved leather.
Yeah, I suppose he had it made in Karth before they left.
Yeah.
Because it's got
He
his
put an
sigil
order
on it. So
We will do whatever needs to be done.
poor Ian, he spent 2 years in that shirt, so it's nice to give him something else to wear.
Commander here. You're just another exile.
I could just listen to Ian Glenn read to me at night. He's got that
Rich tone.
voice like butter. And this, of course, all was shot in Morocco.
Yeah.
Come to bed.
You were right.
Here's one of dozens of scenes of Richard Madden talking over a map with markers.
I'd say to Madam, when I'd see him, I'd say, "What are you doing today? What are you filming?" And he'd say, "Another scene standing over a map."
Right. At least this time
Yeah.
it was in a nice,
Yeah.
beautifully
It's
lit.
a nice map.
It is
You
a nice
know,
map, and they're
what's to
beautiful
complain
markers.
about?
You know.
Yeah, aren't they? Now, I bet you've got some of those, Brian. That would be an absolute travesty if you don't have those at home.
I will do at the end. I think we still have. They're probably still in the prop shop, but I did snag the scroll that Theon when in season 2 when Theon's writing the warning
Yeah.
to Robb and he burns it. I snagged one of those.
Ah.
Nikolaj, have you ever snagged anything?
No.
Yeah.
No, you'd never do such a thing.
Never.
These scenes are tough because
And if
you
I
know,
did, I would never tell anyone about it.
writing kind of war strategy scenes are very tricky because
It's exposition. And
and they they're fascinating in a book but can come off very dull as drama. So it's making the scene be about more than just that. And like for instance, your young marriage and how much you love your wife, and this is a scene that the guys are largely responsible for. It was added later in production. The plot line of Robb deciding to attack Casterly Rock was invented for the show, and it was something that was invented after the read-through, when we realized that as the season was arcing out, it was very clear that Robb was marching to his death. And so it was decided that we needed to give the character kind of a mission and a new purpose in the middle of the season that invigorates him and that lets the audience think that that's what's going to happen. And
There is only one person in this kingdom with that kind of...
One question, because we're recording this today, and this is actually 3 days before episode 9 is airing. Do you think anyone's guessed it?
I don't know. I hope not. We tried very hard to not make it, you have to lay the track so that it makes sense when it happens, but you also don't want to give anything away. I don't think they do.
I don't think so.
We'll see. We'll find out. I mean, I've read a few reviews where I really don't think they're expecting that.
Good.
Reviews by people who've not read the books, but you never know.
How did you know?
Another controversial adaptation choice in the book, Loras, after Renly's death, that's it. He's never going to be with anybody else. But we changed it.
So why is one guy butt naked and the other one is still dressed?
I don't know. I didn't write it that way.
Because one liked it and the other one was feeling a bit teasy.
Okay.
Look, there's still cleavage.
I think that
the
shirt will probably come off in a minute.
Really focused on this male nudity aspect,
No.
Nikolaj. It's always male centric. It's
just
it must be very sort of jealous. Is there jealousy there? Is that what's
No, but there has been, especially after season 1, a lot of talk about people accusing the show of being overly, sex position, all that stuff, right? So I think
yes,
it is interesting to talk about. And
well, how great for you to bring it up with
to
absolutely
be fair,
no
that
answers.
wasn't sex position there. That was just a sex scene.
Yeah.
Because
It wasn't even an intense. That was more of a snog scene. It was a snog scene. A
With
snog scene without clothes. Yeah.
There was plot, but there wasn't exposition in there.
But
No,
wasn't
it was
that
a very free snog scene.
It was beautiful. Was there any but that was something you created, right?
Yes,
for
this whole
Littlefinger.
this whole
That whole thing was something that you.
Yeah, this
made
whole
up.
King's Landing subplot is an expansion of something that's in the book. I mean, and basically, not to get too detailed, but there isn't the third season is roughly the first half of the third book. There actually isn't that much King's Landing stuff in the first half of the third book, and a lot of the characters don't have much to do. Cersei, Littlefinger, Varys. So while the marriage plot about Sansa marrying Tyrion and Cersei marrying one of the Tyrells exists in the book, we expanded it and turned it into more of a political game between the Tyrells and the Lannisters, and also blending it with Varys and Littlefinger's rivalry and Littlefinger trying to get Sansa out of town.
It's amazing because it gives us some of the best scenes of the season.
Yes, and it's
I
just
think
so
it's great stuff.
juicy.
Yeah,
it's one of
it
my
is.
favorites.
I think it turned out really well, and also Marjorie was brought forth as a bigger character.
No, she's a fantastic character.
Sort of a Princess Di character that comes in, so
that's very. Why do you choose Princess Di?
Well, you know what? It was. There's a clue in the book about how she likes to visit the poor, and so that scene in the first episode where she visits the orphanage, and is seen doing it and becomes beloved of the people was reminiscent of Princess Di.
This is one of my favorite moments.
Now, this was another joyous moment to watch these three actors sparring with your script.
Charles,
he's so good.
Isn't he magnificent?
Charles's first scene in the episode. That's what's amazing. He comes in at the end and just takes it over.
Completely.
Doesn't he? Yeah. Oh, look.
Yes. Alex and I called this scene a Lannister family Christmas. This was.
Oh man.
Not appreciated. Wasn't my best, but I thought I'd bring them into the royal.
And it's what's fun about it. What was fun in the writing of it was Tywin getting his house in order and cutting the Tyrell plot off, but it's also him asserting his power over his children and reminding both of them in subtle ways of the reason that he's disgusted by both of them. He makes a little dig at Cersei about the rumors, true or not, about him and her and Jaime, which I think in deep down he knows are true. That's what I think. I don't know if.
No, I think you're right, but I think he would never.
He would never admit it. No.
No, and never quite admit it to himself either. But it's a glorious exercise in his utter control. It's very simple, but keeps them contained.
And if season 2 is about Tyrion's ascension, this season is definitely about Tywin's immense power over everybody. That doesn't let up. I mean, he wins this season.
Joffrey
has
made this poor girl's life miserable since the day he took her father's head. Now she's finally free of him, and you give her to me? That's cruel. Even for
this is a scene that in the book is actually a small council scene. So Varys and Littlefinger and others are present, and David and Dan, quite rightly, when we were mapping it out in the writers' room, said no, it needs to be a family scene, And I think it works really well.
And if I refuse,
you wanted to be rewarded for your valor in battle.
But otherwise, much of it.
Isn't there a little difference? Is Tyrion isn't he a little less concerned with Sansa in the books than he is in our show?
Well, those lines about him saying it's cruel, those are actually directly from the book. I think, arguably, I think he in later episodes he's more overtly sympathetic to her, perhaps, in the show than he is in the book.
I like it. It's just a question. I think it's
and in that that's the kind of thing that kind of I don't know. Maybe it's just writing to the Tyrion of our show that made that happen. And this is a bit of a change. She's told she needs to marry another Tyrell whom is not in the story, but we decided to make it the Tyrell that the audience is familiar with, which is Loras. Oh, and
We love, as an audience, we love this moment. We love this moment. We've been desperate for it to
Lena's
watch this
astonishing
occur.
here.
She's so good.
She's
Isn't
astonishing
she?
here. I mean, when Cersei breaks in those moments those two moments where she breaks and you see behind that, it's
the mask.
My children. And that's that moment that he's just. And that's in the end. That's what all that was about.
But also the fact that they don't stand up to him. I love it. I think it's
No, they can't.
No.
They can't.
No, of course they
Because
can't.
now
they can't,
and you
they
know,
can't overpower their father.
you know why these people turned out the way they did.
I know, exactly.
You know? And that scene,
and he is the only parent. That's the thing.
Yeah.
There was no mom.
Sure. No, he did it himself. And this song is...
Oh, that's eerie.
My first hand at lyrics, based on
really?
stuff from the... Well, it's from the book. It's from Patch... There's a character named Patchface who's a half-crazy jester that has some ramblings that he goes... And so I took some of that and then came up with a couple other lines and we did this
Is this
song.
you singing?
It is. I can really do anything. No, it's, of course. It's Olivier Award winner Carrie Ingram.
Oh.
Shireen.
Wow. Olivier Award already?
Yeah,
She's
she
so
won
young.
for Matilda. The musical of Matilda.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, this was really fun talking about this with you all, and I can't thank you enough for being
Bryan,
such
it just
incredible
makes it. I want to go around to your
interpreters.
house and watch the episodes
Yeah, so do
with you.
It's fun, come on over.
Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, thank you so much for listening.
I'm Bryan Cogman.
I'm Gwendoline Christie.
The famous laugh. There it is.
There it is.